Okay, so here we are, Justice League. I actually got out of the movie about an hour or so ago. I had to eat. Anyway, um, so far, I'd say the film, while going into it, kind of felt like it was going to be a train wreck. Kind of thought this was going to be a disaster. I mean, they had to reshoot a whole bunch. Joss Whedon had to be brought on to finish directing the film in post-production because of what happened to Zack Snyder and his daughter. This thing kind of felt like, again, it was just... And I'm kind of a DCEU apologist. I liked Man of Steel. I did not hate Batman v Superman as much as everyone else did. Suicide Squad, okay. But, even I had my hopes pretty down on this, and I can at least say this isn't a train wreck. The film does have quite a bit of negatives, but it also has quite a few positives as well. I would say this, negative-wise, the villain Steppenwolf, one, it's not a very good villain to begin with. I mean, it's obvious it's a villain to set up for a much greater villain in Darkseid and the New Gods. But now, again, because this was supposed to originally be a two-part movie, now that second part's not really happening. And so you just have them beating this underling and struggling to beat, while trying to set up for a grander thing, but now that grander thing might not come. And then, Willem Dafoe's voice is so electronically altered that you can barely tell it's him. I mean, there's no real performance to him. He just kind of spouts some things. Throughout the film, I mean, basically Steppenwolf's motivation is Bruce was able to decipher that there were three mother boxes on Earth, and if these mother boxes combine, they form something called, I think it's the Unity, and that can bring people to, that can basically open up a portal to Apocalypse and allow Earth to become part of Apocalypse, basically. And one of these mother boxes is on Themyscira. This is where you get the clash between Steppenwolf and the Amazons. There's another one in Atlantis. That's how Aquaman gets worked into it. And there's another one that's somewhere on Earth. It was actually found in Britain, I think, at one point. I'll get into how that works out. But it was on Earth. And basically Bruce kind of realizes he needs to assemble the team now that he's been scouting for so long. We see Wonder Woman breaking up a attempted terror attack in London. We see Bruce go to, I want to say it's Norway, possibly Finland, to visit where Arthur Curry is, Aquaman. We then have them doing some research on the computer about Barry Allen and Vic Stone, Cyborg, who is listed as being dead, even though he's very much alive. And I guess now we'll get more into the individuals on the Justice League. Ben Affleck as Batman is okay. You can kind of, I think, it's pretty obvious he's kind of going through emotions, at least during parts of this film. Maybe early on he was a little more invested into it. I guess having to come back and do the reshoots and that whole shebang that's gone down, that he's not directing the Batman film, or maybe he's not even starring in the Batman film. Again, this is getting very confusing, I know. Ben Affleck's kind of fine. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, she's great. Don't have to say any more than that. Ezra Miller as the Flash. There's times he's a little too geeky fanboy. I'd say they're trying to do... he has the same backstory as Barry Allen on the Flash TV series with the father who was wrongly convicted of murdering his wife, Barry's mother. And they're also trying to do the Michael Rosenbaum Flash from the Justice League animated series. And it doesn't quite gel in some places. Like, there are some parts where he's pretty good, but other than that, it's actually scenes when he interacts with Superman, and that's not a really big spoiler because basically all the trailers telegraph that Superman would be coming back. But that actually does work pretty well. I think when his brief interactions with Superman, there's a couple of times he chips in during a fight that sort of unknowingly, and that seems to work pretty well. But other than that, he can be a little grating sometimes. Cyborg, whose actor's name escapes me. He's actually really good in this. I don't know anything else that he'd been in, but he's really good. I mean, there's not much for the character, but what he does really well. Cyborg is basically like the master hacker in this, and part of his backstory is his father was working on the mother box, was researching it. They had found the mother box in Britain. It had been transported to Metropolis at Star Labs, and the whole thing exploded, and Vic was caught in the explosion, Vic Stone. And then he was made out of material from the downed Kryptonian spaceship from Man of Steel, basically. After that, Aquaman, Jason Momoa. I've heard some mixed things about it. Like, I thought he was fine. Again, he's not given much, unfortunately. It's like, I wonder if the Aquaman movie might actually be a better avenue for him, much like how I think Wonder Woman was a better avenue for, well, Wonder Woman than Dawn of Justice was. But, excuse me. And, yeah, sorry. Like I said, that might be the Aquaman movie might be a better avenue for him, but there's some bits in there, like, he's sort of resentful. He does not want to be king of Atlantis. Eventually, he winds up, after he pieces together that they're going after the mother boxes. And he goes to Atlantis, and that's where he meets up with Mira. And basically, that's where he gets the armor and the trident to fight with, basically to fight Steppenwolf. Anyway, some of the supporting cast, J.K. Simmons' Gordon is... he's barely there, really. He's in like 4 scenes, underutilized. Alfred, Jeremy Irons, he's really good. Nothing to worry about there. Amy Adams and Diane Lane are in this movie, and I wonder if a lot of their scenes had to do with the reshoots. I mean, there's a few scenes, because there's some parts of this where it seems sort of dreamlike, and so maybe then you could get the idea that Lois Lane was popping up and actually serving a purpose. But basically, it's the bank foreclosed on the Kent home. Martha's, basically all alone now. She doesn't have anyone to really support her, and so she moves to Metropolis. Basically, moves in with Lois, and yeah, that's just kind of it. But anyway, as they're piecing together a lot of the bits with the mother box, Bruce sort of stumbles on the idea that maybe the mother box could be used to revive Superman. And again, like, this really isn't that big a spoiler, since pretty much every trailer was going to point out that Superman was coming back. So, but yeah, Cyborg and Flash dig Superman's body out of the ground. They take it back to the Kryptonian spaceship. They charge the mother box up. They do revive Superman, and Superman's very startled, and they're trying to talk him down because he's not quite himself. There's actually a scene where he starts scanning Cyborg with his X-ray vision, and that actually sets off the defense armor, the defense portion of Cyborg's programming, and he's trying to fight it, and that causes like a fight between them. And Superman kind of starts mopping the floor with just about everyone, even Wonder Woman. He holds his own against, and then suddenly Lois shows up, and that's where it calms down. And again, this is where I think the reshoots come in, because there's I'm pretty sure this whole Superman revival scene was meant to take place much later in the film than it was. It feels really, I hesitate to say out of place, but it seems kind of sudden, and then it's kind of quickly forgotten about. I have seen, as I was eating, I looked up a lot of reviews, and I think they all talk about the pacing with this being an issue, and yeah, I would agree, the pacing is pretty bad. Anyway, they managed to, as that fight with Superman was happening, basically Steppenwolf manages to make off with the mother box. He's housed up in Chernobyl because, of course, well, they don't say it's Chernobyl, but yeah, it's this spot in Soviet Russia where there was a nuclear meltdown 30 years ago, so yeah, it's Chernobyl. And that's where the League basically tracks it down. Superman's not part of it yet. He's kind of alone with Lois. Again, this is where I talk about maybe those reshoots are really coming into play. Because there's one scene, you could think of it being kind of a dream-like sequence, where he and Lois are at the Kent home, which has been foreclosed and is abandoned. And then there's just this pause, like as they're talking, Lois says something like, "I have to let you go because you're needed elsewhere." And I was like, yeah, see, I could see where that scene was maybe meant to come before Superman was being revived, or as he was being revived, and they didn't, yeah, because of everything that had to be done to shuffle this thing around. That's what happened. Anyway, the League comes together. They overthrow Steppenwolf. There's not a lot of references. There's like a couple of brief references. Like Steppenwolf says he wishes to be part of the new gods. He works for all of Darkseid or something to that effect. That's kind of the extent. Like I said, obviously they're trying to plant seeds for a sequel that might not come. Anyway, at the end, Bruce actually buys the bank, which owns the Kent farm, and that allows Martha to move back in because he forgives the mortgage, basically. Everyone else kind of returns to their normal lives. Barry actually gets a job at a... Yeah, part of Barry Allen's arc is, too, they didn't have a job. He was basically illegally squatting, and he... but at the end, he gets a job at the Central City Police Department. Like I said, they're doing very much the Flash TV show storyline. We don't really see what happened to Aquaman, but we then get to the mid-credit sequences. Actually, like I said, I thought the banter between Superman and Flash, as brief as it was actually really good. In fact, there's this one point where they start kind of racing to save civilians in the Russian civilians, basically. And there's actually a scene, like, Barry manages to push this one car that had run out of gas. He pushes it out of the path of a big beam, saving this one family. And then he looks to his side, and then Superman is flying by carrying a large building full of people. That was, like I said, that was kind of a nice little scene. And then in the mid-credits, there's a scene where Flash and Superman race, and if Barry wins... I forget what Barry's prize was, but if Superman wins, Barry had to buy brunch for the entire league. Because, there's this scene where, if you see how the trailers like this one thing where Barry's talking about how he doesn't quite understand what brunch is. You're basically showing up for breakfast and or lunch. You're waiting over an hour for what? Yeah. But, like I said, that was a really nice little scene. And then we get to the post-credit sequence where they're doing another plant for a sequel, or what will be the next sequel, whatever that may be. And it's something's going on at the prison where Lex Luthor is being held. They go into the Luthor cell, and it's some other guy with a big, laughing smile on his face, like Joker gas. Did the Joker break him out? We don't know. But Luthor is actually on a yacht, and yes, it's still Jesse Eisenberg, unfortunately. Again, I have to wonder if this was a rewrite scene, because he's much better as Lex Luthor than he ever was in this, 3-minute sequence that he actually was in any of Dawn of Justice, really. But he's sitting there, and Deathstroke, the Terminator, arrives, and he walks up, and they're talking. He says, "Well, what do you need me for?" It's like, well, God has returned. Superman is back. I am enjoying the fact that he's back, but I noticed that he and his friends have started together a little group, and I think we need to start a league of our own. And that's how it ends. So yeah, like I said, overall, the positives, I thought most of the characterization throughout was really good. It was pretty good. Like I said, there were some problems here and there. Like I said, the plot felt mismanaged at times. Like I said, parts seemed out of place. There are pacing issues. The villain is unconvincing in more ways than one. So I'm going to give Justice League a C. Okay, trailer time. Not as many trailers as usual, but we do have a few here. We have Den of Thieves, starring Gerard Butler and 50 Cent. Yes, it's the action fight that you've been waiting for. Leonidas versus 50 Cent. Basically, kind of a standard caper movie. I think your typical January fare comes out January 19th. Might be interesting. After that, we have Pitch Perfect 3. I haven't seen either of the previous two Pitch Perfect movies. It didn't interest me at all. After that, we have Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle again. Then we have Ready Player One. The first time I've seen this trailer in the theaters. If you don't know what Ready Player One is, it was basically like this. It was a novel that was basically like this big love letter to geeky stuff from the 80s, and I guess the 90s a little bit as well. It's like you live in this, it's the future, and it's a future dystopia, and this guy basically makes a living in a virtual reality world, but it's like a virtual reality world filled with all of the pop culture of the last 30 or so years, and so it's like he's a car racer, but he races his DeLorean against the Ecto Cooler, and the bikes from Tron, the light cycles from Tron, the Ecto Cooler, the Ecto One from Ghostbusters. I'm trying to think. Knight Rider, I think, is in there as well. Yeah, like that was the book too. It's all these like pop culture references. The Iron Giant shows up. Freddy Krueger It's all this like it's basically fanfic the book, fanfic the movie, and not in the 50 Shades of Grey fanfic way. But in the, I'm going to write all this cool stuff together in one universe, and therefore it will be cool. After that we have Last Jedi again, and that's our last trailer. So, obviously the next video up is going to be NXT War Games. That'll be up tomorrow. After that we have, obviously Survivor Series. That will be up Monday no matter what. I know Survivor Series is going to be a really long show. They're even saying it could be 5 hours in total, and that's not even including the 2-hour pre-show. So yeah, this could be brutal. Even though I do like a lot of the matches going into it, I think that a lot of them are going to be really long. Anyway, next movie review is going to be Last Jedi, so we're getting a big space in between. There's definitely going to be, I want to try to do a video somewhere in between with the movie reviews, because I want to outline what's coming up in terms of that, a little bit even in terms of what's going to be happening with basically the channel overall. See you all next time. Hey guys, just a reminder, I am on Patreon now at patreon.com/SleepyTimeForCat Productions. There's a reward tier where you can request for me to review a movie. So if you want to force me to see something like the Emoji Movie, here's your chance.